morning, I'm Danny Laurel. It is Tuesday, the 3rd day of March, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. The House Committee on Justice has officially declared the 3rd and 4th impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte sufficient in form. The proceedings will now advance to the determination of sufficiency in substance, where lawmakers will evaluate if the allegations constitute impeachable offenses. Over 500 people have been killed as the conflict in the Middle East intensifies. Despite the toll, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that military operations in Iran will persist and may last for another month. And PLDT and Smart are stepping up assistance for OFWs with free calling services across the Middle East starting this week. Now, as part of that effort, a dedicated crisis line has been opened to provide peace of mind to families in the Philippines worried about the safety of their relatives overseas. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, the Sandigan Bayan 6th Division is scheduled to begin the trial of resigned lawmaker Zaldico and 15 of his co-accused over the alleged substandard 289 million peso flood control project in Nawan, Oriental Mindoro. For the details, we have mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles, tell us what's going on.
Dani, inaasahan nga natin ngayon na darating yung council at di dating Congressman Zaldico dito sa Sandigan Bayan kung saan nga magsisimula na yung paglilitis ito. Kaugnay doon sa 289 million pesos no manoy substandard flood control project sa Nawan Oriental Mindoro. No? Matatandaan natin na nananatili na at large si Ko, well at least patungkol dito sa kanyang kaso, hindi pa rin siya bumabalik sa bansa at matatandaan din natin na yung 6th Division mismo ng Sandigan Bayan na may hawak din dito sa kaparehas na kaso ay idineklara na nga si Zaldico na fugitive o pugante na nagtatago umano sa ilalim ng batas. Ayon sa 6th Division ng Sandigan Bayan ay aware si Ko sa kaso na isinampa sa kanya at sumasagot daw ito sa mga papel at mga summon naman so far na binibigay sa kanya. Kaya daw hindi raw maaari negate dito yung kanyang innocence at yung kawalang alam dito, ideya dito nga sa kaso na kanyang hinaharap. Particular yan, yung kasong malversation, falsification of public documents dahil nga kung tatandaan din natin itong yung kaso na ito sa Oriental Mindoro. Sabi ni Secretary Vince Dizon na yung mga gamit daw yung mga materyales na ginamit kagaya na lamang ng steel tile or steel sheets na ginamit dito ay mas manipis at mas maikli na kaunti kumpara sa nakadeklara sa design nito na inaprubahan nga ng DPWH. Inaasahan din natin ngayon na harap dito yung iba pa nitong kapwa-akusado kagaya na lamang ni na former Regional Director ng Region 4 ng DPWH na si Gerald Pacanan na siya namang direktor mula January 11, 2022 hanggang January 31, 2025 bago nga magsimula yung pagsilip sa mga maanomalyang flood control projects ng pamahalaan. Gayon din sina Gina Rhea Altea, pati din ang iba pang mga opisyal ng DPWH Regional Office ng Region 4 sa mga panahon na iyon. Danny.
Arles, one question lang before we let you go. Who are expected to be present during today's scheduled hearing and ano pong magagawa nila that Zaldico is actually at large? Matatawag ba siya or meron bang any form of repercussion?
Well, at least, Danny, dito sa kanyang pagsisimula ng paglilitis kay ex-Congressman Zaldico, inaasahan na dadating yung kanyang legal counsel na si Attorney Roy Rondain na kung saan nga ito yung maharap sa media from time to time, tumutugon sa ating mga tanong, kaugnay dito sa mga tanong natin kay Representative Zaldico. But at least for now, ang latest kay Representative Zaldico yung nasa Sweden nga siya nung nagpanotarize siya ng isang papel na ipinasa niya doon sa Supreme Court para sa kanyang petition for certiorari at patang petition na maghain ng temporary restraining order laban nga kay Ombudsman Boying Rimulya at sa Independent Commission for Infrastructure or ICI. Hindi pa natin makukumpirma, Dani, kung ano nga yung pwede maging repercussion nito. Pero sa ngayon, hindi pa rin inoobliga na bumalik si Representative Zaldico. Wala pang Interpol notice na tayo nakukumpirma or any other form of legal processes na pwedeng magpabalik sa kanya sa Pilipinas bukod nga doon sa pagkakansela ng kanyang passport. Dani.
Maraming salamat, mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. The House Committee on Justice has declared the third and fourth impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte sufficient in form. The third complaint was filed by religious groups on February 9th, while the fourth was submitted by a group of lawyers on February 18th. The complaints will now proceed to the next stage, where the committee will determine whether they are sufficient in substance. Now, before this, the committee voted to set aside the first impeachment complaint endorsed by the Makabayan bloc for allegedly violating the one-year bar rule.
If we do not take ownership of our own rules and impeachment, then at every step, kahit sinong gustong hadlangan ang pagpapanagot sa ikalawang pinakamataas na opisyal o sino mang impeachable official, at any point pwede pong tumakbo sa Supreme Court para questionin ang rules natin.
Hindi naman po tayo natatakot. Gusto lamang po natin mag-ingat. We should interpret it as a whole by including the filing. Hindi naman po sinabi dito na or eh. Ang sinasabi dito, filing and referral.
And to discuss the latest developments in the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte, we are joined by ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino. Good morning, Kong.
Hi, good morning, Dan. Good morning to our viewers.
Rep, let's kick off with your reaction to the first complaint being set aside because it allegedly violates the one-year bar rule. What's your reaction to this?
Well, of course, we were dismayed with that ruling. Siyempre, hindi natin gusto na ma-set aside yung first impeachment complaint. At in particular, it's because of the reason why it was set aside, namely that there was a concern that another issue would be raised before the Supreme Court, having to do with the one-year bar. No? Ang concern natin ay kung ganyan na magiging attitude ng Committee on Justice or stand ng Committee on Justice ay, well, the impeachment as a whole cannot really prosper or move forward. Kasi we have seen, and the lesson of the previous Congress is that for as long as the House or Congress does not take ownership of its own rules on impeachment. And there's a reason why the Constitution specifically tasks the impeachment solely to the House. So if the House doesn't take control of its own rules, then at any point and at any time, impeachment can always be subverted by running to the Supreme Court and questioning the rules. That's what happened last time. This is the reason why the impeachment trial at the Senate was declared void and did not proceed. And so the danger is this will happen again. So yun yung pinaka-concern natin.
But nevertheless, two of the other filed cases are moving forward, nevertheless, with at least to the level of being evaluated for substance. So is this not enough for you, since it's anyway going to go to the same impeachment trial, if it does?
Yes, since we support the impeachment proceedings as a whole, we want the impeachment to succeed. We want the Vice President held accountable. So that is positive. However, I foresee that it's still possible for example, the Vice President once again to run to the Supreme Court and raise yet another procedural issue, just as she did in the previous Congress. Mm-hmm. So hindi pa sa-solve yung problema na yun.
So what do you expect is going to happen at this stage of the sufficient in substance? Papasa ba to?
Yes, I think it's clear that the impeachment has the support of the majority, so therefore um, the numbers will be there to find it sufficient in substance, and it will proceed to the next stage of the impeachment proceeding.
Can you tell us once again your thoughts on why you believe that the majority or of the House will be supporting this, given that, of course, VP Sara has declared her intention to run for president in 2028? Do you feel that this would sway the votes against the impeachment?
Mhm. Well, the simple reason is that President Marcos is still the president, and he still controls the majority in the House of Representatives. And so Malacanang still has the numbers, to mobilize for this vote. We're looking at impeachment here as a purely political uh, process or numbers game. So um, at this point, uh, even though the vice president declared that she will run for president in 2028, at this point, the majority is still for the incumbent. So that's why I believe that the numbers will be there at the committee level as well as at the plenary level when it comes to that.
And can you say that the same thing happened when the charges, or at least the bid for impeachment of the president, BBM, was dismissed or declared
Mhm.
not substantive? Is that because of the support still for the admin at this stage, or is it really
Yes,
just simply it wasn't sufficient in form?
uh, it was the impeachment against the President Marcos, which we also endorsed, was found sufficient in form but not in substance.
In substance,
No.
rather, yes.
So, uh, yes, essentially the same dynamic happened. In that case, the majority uh, moved very clearly moved to block the impeachment, and so prematurely uh, declared the complaint that we endorsed to be insufficient in substance. Even though so the committee was saying that there was no evidence to support the allegations, even though at that stage wala pang presentation of evidence. So that was not even uh, yet the point of the exercise. No, it was simply determination of whether or not um, the complaint alleged sufficient facts to support impeachment.
Were you disappointed with that, or
Oh,
are you
of course.
accepting that the votes of the House would hold?
Uh, of course, we were disappointed as well, and um, for the simple reason that in that case that impeachment of the president was about the flood control corruption, and I think the majority of Filipinos in general are disappointed with how the so-called anti-corruption campaign uh, has has turned out. No? Uh, the president promised that there would be the big fish uh, jailed by December, and it's now March, and where are the big fish? Wala pa rin, no? Rather, what we're seeing is that apparently accountability is negotiable. Uh, you see that in the Blue Ribbon Committee report, where they can't even come out with a report because they can't agree on the names that will be included, no, recommended to face charges, the senators who will face charges. So, um, and the reason for this, the reason why walang matukoy na big fish is because as we allege in our complaint, the biggest fish is in Malacanang. President himself and his closest allies are the ones who are responsible and should be held accountable for the flood control corruption.
But is impeachment the only recourse of action here? That is, should be the last recourse, no? Are there no other intermediate steps that you can push for more accountability rather than impeachment, which some have also called, destabilizing for the government, for the economy at this point?
Well, if you're talking about holding the president accountable, then that's the only way to hold the president accountable. Now, as to this destabilization, well, what's destabilizing is not pushing for impeachment, pushing to hold the president accountable, but the acts of plunder that have that reached unprecedented levels during this administration. That's the truly destabilizing act here. And as to what else can be done, well, yes, there are other things that can be done. For example, the president's subordinates may be investigated. For example, the palace officials that he himself fired, removed from his cabinet, notably the executive secretary Bersamin, as well as the Undersecretary Adrian Bersamin. Turns out he plays a key role in directly linking the president to the flood control corruption. So those two, they do not have immunity, and so they can be investigated. But take note that they have never been investigated, not by the ICI, nor the Blue Ribbon Committee, nor the Ombudsman. No, so if we want true accountability, then we can start with these people.
Rep, have you or anyone really spoken to VP Sara about these proceedings and what is going on? Is she participating? Is she going to be present at all? If they call her, will she be responding to anything? She's so far she has not really said anything, no?
Yeah, no, we have not spoken to the vice president, and I can only judge from previous experience, no? Meaning to say, she has never shown herself to be cooperative with any of the processes of the House, no, whether it be the regular or the annual budget deliberations. Remember, in the last budget deliberations, she even made demands or ultimatums as conditions for her attendance at the budget deliberations on her office's budget, the office of the vice president. So I don't think she will cooperate. Or that she will make a personal appearance in the hearings of the Committee on Justice should this proceed. So no, but regardless, the impeachment proceedings will continue, and I am fairly certain that this will once again reach the Senate for trial.
All right, thank you so much for those updates. We are watching them closely. ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino. Thank you, Rep.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning.
Don't go away. We will be back with more stories after this quick break. Good morning. I'm Danny Laurel, and you are watching Morning Matters. Now, what began as a wave of U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iran has now spiraled into a wider regional conflict, with missile exchanges, attacks on military bases, and rising civilian casualties across several countries. And in a new development, U.S. President Donald Trump says he is not ruling out the possibility of deploying ground forces in Iran. Here's that report.
Since Saturday, the United States and Israel have continued launching airstrikes on Iran. Among the reported targets was this broadcasting headquarters in Tehran, which was hit during the bombardment. A girls' school in Iran was also struck. More than 100 civilians, including young students, were reported killed. Several areas across Tehran were also hit, including the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and even the presidential office. Now, large parts of Iran have been reduced to rubble and ash following successive airstrikes. After the attacks, the United States released videos showing actual missile strikes on Iranian targets, including fighter jets on the ground. The US and Israel also confirmed the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. His daughter and grandchild were reportedly among those killed. Images of Khamenei have since appeared across Iran as the country mourns. According to the Israel army, 40 senior Iranian officials were also killed. In retaliation, Iran launched missiles toward Israel.
Oh my God.
Explosions were heard across Jerusalem as missiles lit up the night sky. Some projectiles struck parts of the city. Missiles also hit Tel Aviv, the West Bank, and Haifa. Israel attempted to block the incoming attacks using its air defense system, with missiles fragments seen falling from the sky. But some missiles broke through, destroying and setting several buildings on fire. Air raid sirens continued to echo across Israel, warning residents of incoming missile threats. The conflict has also spread beyond Israel and Iran. In Dubai, a drone exploded near a luxury hotel. Dubai International Airport was also reportedly struck. Similar scenes unfolded in Abu Dhabi, from airport areas to port facilities. In Kuwait, an airstrike reportedly targeted the airport. Video footage also captured a drone crashing down. A missile struck near a U.S. military base close to Manama, Bahrain.
They got the NASA building. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!
In Doha, Qatar, missiles were intercepted both in the morning and at night, with loud explosions heard across the city. Meanwhile, the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah launched attacks against Israel, as Israeli strikes also hit parts of Lebanon. Iran also retaliated against U.S. military bases in the Middle East. Last year, U.S. President Donald Trump had vowed that America would not start a war, but he insists the bombing campaign aims to eliminate armed groups supported by Iran and prevent the country from acquiring nuclear weapons.
Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated.
Based on Al Jazeera's report, more than 500 people have died in Iran, 13 in Lebanon, 10 in Israel, 3 in UAE, 2 in Iraq, and 1 each in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman. 4 U.S. service members were also reportedly killed. Despite this, Trump says U.S. military operation in Iran could last up to 4 more weeks. Iran, however, maintained that it will not negotiate with the United States.
Government agencies are ramping up preparations to assist Filipinos affected by the escalating Middle East conflict. The Department of Migrant Workers says it is already coordinating closely with the Department of Foreign Affairs and the OWA and has identified meeting points, transit routes, and shelter locations for OFWs on the ground. But officials stress that actual repatriation can only begin once airspace in the region reopens.
Sarado sa ngayon ng UAE, we will make sure to be there, our augmentation teams, in the areas surrounding kung saan pwedeng sumalubong at pumasok at the right time. Again, timing is everything at this stage. Kaya hindi po tayo muna manghimasok sa protocols ng host countries.
For now, the Philippine Embassy in Israel continues to monitor the situation and assist Filipinos, including efforts to facilitate the transport of a Filipina caregiver's remains back to the Philippines once flights resume.
Sa ngayon, nasa morgue siya. So hanggang sa time na pwede nating ilipad siya, ililipad natin kaagad. Pati syempre yung kanyang asawa na nandito rin, nagtatrabaho din dito sa Israel.
Meanwhile, PLDT is providing free call services to assist overseas Filipinos affected by the escalating tensions in the Middle East. PLDT's chairman and CEO Manny Pangilinan announced a 24/7 crisis hotline to help connected affected Filipinos to their families. That is area code +632 8845 7799. Through that number, Filipinos here will be able to contact their loved ones in Iran, Israel, Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia for free. Those in the countries mentioned may also place free calls to the Philippines using the Tinbo app through a smart virtual number. Pangilinan says he personally ordered PLDT and Smart to offer free calls for Filipinos in countries affected by the conflict in the Middle East to make it as easy as possible for our countrymen to reach their loved ones and vice versa. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after this short break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The escalating conflict in the Middle East is raising fresh concerns of an energy shock that could test the Philippine economy. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has reportedly declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. This is a vital route that carries roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil supply. While it technically remains open under international law, reports say no vessels are passing through due to security threats. Analysts warn this could push global crude prices to $100 per barrel. Compounding fears, Saudi Aramco has reportedly shut down parts of its crude operations following drone attacks, a major concern for the Philippines, which imports around 40% of its crude from Saudi Arabia. Nomura estimates that every 10% increase in oil prices could add about half a percentage point to Philippine inflation, potentially dampening growth and weakening the peso. Currency analysts also warn that higher fuel costs could delay further interest rate cuts by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Joining us today to discuss all of this is Emmanuel Leico. He's the President and Chief Economist of Credit Rating and Investor Services Philippines, as well as Senior Fellow at the Center for People Empowerment and Governance, or the CENPEG. Good morning, Prof. Very good to see you.
Good morning, Danny, and thanks for having me back, and good to see you again.
Prof, difficult times for us to be discussing right now, but let's put the focus for a moment here on the impact on the domestic economy here in the Philippines. Give us your 2 cents, very quick 2 cents on how vulnerable the economy is right now, and also in the immediate term to a prolonged spike in global oil prices, which we are already starting to see.
Well, immediately, the supply concerns of fuel will be a major issue, and that will lead definitely to substantial increases in fuel prices at the pump when consumers go to refuel, and therefore for the households, for the driving community, the passengers, the fuel prices will be immediately felt. And that will be, again, felt in the supermarket when prices of prime commodities that we mostly import will also increase. Definitely, the immediate concern here will be inflation, and that has to be a top-line concern for the government to consider.
They are, in fact, having emergency meetings right now at the Department of Energy. There are proposals to cut the excise tax. Is this going to do much? What can be done at this stage? Let's just focus on the pump prices. Can this actually be contained for the time being?
I don't think so. Already today, more than a peso increase was already imposed, and we've seen that in the fuel prices. And last night, we already saw long lines of cars, vehicles trying to get fuel. And That is without the impact of the Iran war, the U.S.-Israel war against Iran. So already, if you look at the oil prices in the world market, immediately it jumped 10%. And the concern is it could go up as high as $100 per barrel, even up to $120 per barrel. And that will be devastating for our economy.
Prof, this is not the first time we've seen this type of conflicts in the Middle East. We are very well aware that we are one of the countries with a very high import dependence on fuel, particularly crude from Saudi Arabia. Do we have contingency plans in place? This was something that could have happened already. And do we have enough reserves to cushion the blow?
The requirement is for the fuel companies or for the industry to have the 30-day reserve. Now, would a 30-day reserve be enough? And it looks like listening from the press releases or press conferences of the U.S. government, it doesn't look like 4 to 6 weeks will be enough to achieve their goals. It doesn't look like, unlike what they did in June, where they said they wanted to disable the nuclear capability of Iran. It makes people wonder, why do they have to come back now? It looks like they were not able to do what they said they will do in June, and now people are still wondering if they were able to do what they wanted to do in the raids that they did over the weekend. So I think we're in here for the long haul, which I think will be serious, will create a major impact on our economy. We hope that it does not last a day longer, but listening from the policymakers, decision makers in the U.S., it doesn't look like it will be so after 4 to 5 weeks.
Prof, do you have any indication on what this could do to inflation and the peso? What's your prediction here?
Okay, definitely inflation will exceed targets. Right now, or the numbers that they will bring out in the next few days will not reflect the current conflict yet.
Situation.
So already we are anticipating that it will be an increased inflation. It will be a faster inflation, but it will still be within target. It will still be, I think, within or below 2.5%. But with the conflict in the Middle East right now, it will be easy to say that the inflation targets will exceed 2.5% and even approach 3% if the conflict extends beyond a month, as what we have been hearing now.
The BSP has its next session to discuss what was expected to be an imminent rate cut for the current easing cycle on April. Is this going to impact that? What's your projection there? As you mentioned, inflation is still lower or within target, at least for the foreseeable future until this starts to penetrate the economy.
Well, the BSP governor already said during his one of his press conferences that the monetary policy can only do so much to stimulate the economy. The growth rate declining last year to 4.4%, which is way below target, was already a major indicator. It was a concern. We were expecting 5.5%, and we finished the year with 4.4%. monetary policy, and the governor is right in saying that monetary policy can only do so much. Now that inflation is there's a major risk that inflation will be affected by the conflict in the Middle East. I don't think the BSP will be in the mood to further lower interest rate, and therefore at 4.25%, I think that will be it for the rest of the period when the Middle East conflict, while the Middle East conflict continues.
I'm quite afraid to ask what your growth projections are at this point. As you mentioned, no, already before this even happened, you already had Governor Eli saying 4.6% for 2026, well below a 5 to 6% government target. What are we going to be seeing now?
You know, risk analysts have always been focusing on internal shocks. And that means, the fiscal shocks, the fiscal discipline, the corruption that we are seeing now. And we are not even factoring in any major disruption externally. Now that we are seeing that, it's like a double whammy now. We have internal issues that we are dealing with. Now we have a much larger issue to deal with insofar as our fuel supply is concerned and the expected global inflationary impact that it can cause. So earlier we were looking at maybe just to duplicate what happened last year if nothing is done by the government, 4.4%. But with this kind of shocks, external shocks happening right now, I think we will go below 4.4% for this year.
Can you compare how insulated or exposed we are compared to the rest of the region or our peers, and how will we be growing? Because I mean, regardless of the growth story last year, they still say that we nevertheless grew at least better than some of our neighbors. No, it was a global growth slowdown, and we still managed to beat some of them. What's the story going to be this year?
Well, region-wide, I think the impact will be felt, particularly China, Japan, and even our neighboring countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam. We will all be in the same boat. However, because our economy has not grown at a much faster rate than we have expected, the impact on our people will be very much felt. Remember, 40 years ago, just last week, we were comparing our economies to Vietnam and Indonesia. We were doing much better than them. In terms of per capita income, we exceeded those of Vietnam and Indonesia. 40 years later, and I think the reference point was that 1986, the EDSA revolution, they have already exceeded us. So in terms of comparing how the impact will affect the Philippines and our neighboring countries, I think we will be affected much more than our neighbors.
Let's shift the focus towards our kababayans in the region. 2.5 million. Once again, 2.5 million Filipinos are in the Middle East. There are calls for repatriation. People are hopefully going to be repatriated and back to safety. What does that mean for these people that will be losing their main source of income for their families, and also that windfall of remittances to the country?
Exactly. Over $3 billion a month are sent to the Philippines. No, of course, the big chunk of it comes from our U.S.
You mean globally?
Professionals. Yes, globally we get 3.4%. And next to the U.S., the major remittances come from the Middle East and some here in Asia. But remember, our remittances represent about 8% of our GDP. That will be a big cut to our GDP and to the households. Last year, household spending already slowed down. Consumer spending slowed down. With this new development, the household spending, I think, will further slow down, and that will really affect the GDP growth rate for this quarter.
Is this going to have a big structural impact on the OFWs in that region? Are we really going to be seeing a decline over time as this conflict unfolds or the region becomes very tricky? Or do you feel that this is just a contained situation, and then when things are stabilized, they can go back to their jobs? Have you seen something like this already happen? Especially if there have been wars in the Middle East, there was already this issue just last year. So resilient ba ang mga trabaho ng mga kababayan natin doon?
In the past, we were only seeing these issues happening in Israel, in Lebanon, but now it's region-wide. And our kababayans are hearing explosions on a daily basis.
Yeah.
They themselves are terrified, and many Filipinos are now wanting to come back. So is it
New
going to be
normal na nga eh.
temporary? I don't think so. The U.S. president is saying it could last more than 4 to 6 weeks. And before that happens, a lot of Filipinos will already want to come back to the Philippines.
For good even, and perhaps not take the risk to go there. Sir, what immediate steps should the government be taking right now from an economic standpoint to cushion this blow? There's already, as you mentioned, there were internal issues that needed to be done. There's already just simply the catch-up government spending plan that has to be put in place, from since November's GDP print. Tell us what can be done more pa at this stage to cushion the blow.
Conserving oil or fuel consumption would be top of mind right now, particularly for the government. Limit our movements to essential steps only. And perhaps right now they can already say you can do more work from home, and but that will not really affect the total economy. But those are things that can help, but not really much. The other thing that the government may consider right now is, the excise tax can be suspended, value-added tax can be suspended, and make sure that its social protection is more evenly distributed to our people. Right now, we're focusing on the poorest of the poor, but the government is now facing challenges that, hey, the poorest of the poor are poor, but there are also middle classes, so-called middle classes, that need government support. So the government is really faced with big challenges right now to make sure that the requirements of our people are met.
Sir, what indicators are you looking at when it comes to consumption? Because as you mentioned, when we look at, especially just as a person looking in the financial markets, at corporate earnings, parang okay naman the earnings that are being released, that it seems that people are spending, people are going to malls, you have profits still, especially food and restaurants are full. Anecdotally, parang okay naman. But are you seeing that tapering off? Are people going to be more stringent with their wallets this year, or are Filipinos continuing to spend?
Well, actually, when we looked at the household spending, household spending slowed down last year, particularly in the fourth quarter. We were expecting that there will be a resurgence of spending by the households during the last quarter, particularly as Christmas spending, the holiday spending came in. But that's not what we saw. I think
Yeah.
prominent in the minds of our people was that there's so much corruption going on. The GDP, the economy is slowing down, and therefore they were trying to preserve or save something for
Interesting.
their own use. Yes, for their own protection. So, no, I don't see household spending going back up, particularly with what's happening right now. So, the government will really have to do a lot more to stimulate and protect economy, particularly those from the bottom portion of our population. Remember, while the economy is growing, the growth of the economy is not exactly spread out. You know, capital gains are, I think, evident. They are able to show that the major companies are showing bigger profits. However, the salaries, the purchasing power of our people have not really gone up. In fact, it has been eroded over the years. So there is an uneven distribution of growth that we are seeing right now. The big businesses are okay. So the GDP growth rate is okay. It's well received. But for the common people who have no capital, who are basically your day-to-day minimum wage earners, are not celebrating the growth of the economy.
Are there bright spots, Prof?
You know, that is a very difficult question to answer right now. Bright spots will be probably now that we are seeing the vulnerabilities of a strategy that was only supposed to be short term. Remember, the OFW phenomenon in the 80s was only, or the 70s, was only meant to provide a stopgap. Our people were graduating from college, entering the job market, but the Philippine economy was not able to create enough jobs to accommodate them. And then the boom, or the economic boom happening in the Middle East at that time, provided an opportunity for the government to respond to that requirement to create jobs locally for our people. So in the meantime, they sent our OFWs to the Middle East, but that was meant to be a stopgap. Unfortunately, that has become a permanent fixture in our economic strategy, at least by the government. So right now, you have more than 2 million in the Middle East, millions more elsewhere. OFW remittances have become a major push for our GDP growth, without which our own spending, our household spending, if it only relies on minimum wages that our people get from their employers, will not be enough. So I think the realization of the vulnerabilities of OFWs or our labor migration will have to say or be realized by our policymakers that this is not a stable, this is not a reliable strategy on the part of our nation. We have to create jobs locally. We have to strengthen our agriculture. We have to strengthen and revisit our industries. We need to have local industries that can be more competitive, industries that can provide for our needs, agriculture that can feed our people. except and stop thinking about importing food. Right now we are the biggest rice importer globally. That has to stop. We have to strengthen our own agricultural production. The agricultural base of our industries will have to be established.
Prof, last question on that same point. I know it's not the best situation right now, but perhaps it could be a possibility, as you mentioned, for the brain drain to reverse and for us to get back such talented people from the Middle East back into the country. Could we perhaps see that as a positive gain for the economy?
Oh, definitely. Our people in the Middle East coming back here, most of them are in healthcare. Our healthcare industry or healthcare sector can be supported by that, but the government will have to do its part. Our people coming back without jobs will be a pointless thing to consider. We have to create jobs for them. And AI being the headline story in the economy, I think many of them are also working in IT, in information
Correct.
technology, or many of them can be retrained. But we have to have a strategy. We need to have a clear vision now how we can push for Philippine development without over-relying on foreign economies to prop up our economy.
These are indeed fragile times. Thank you, Prof. Emmanuel Leco, President and Chief Economist of Credit Rating and Investor Services Philippines and Senior Fellow over at CENPEC. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Danny Laurel. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.